Okay, so if you're a creator or a solo builder, you probably feel it, right? That constant low-level hum of anxiety that's always telling you you're falling behind on AI, on monetization, on just about everything. It really feels like trying to drink from a fire hose. So for the next few minutes, let's just turn that fire hose down to a gentle stream. This isn't about another list of tools or more hype. This is just about finding a little bit of clarity in all that noise. So let's dive in with this core idea. This quote, it really nails what we're talking about today. See, the goal isn't just to work harder. It's about building smarter systems that actually work for you, amplifying the ambition you already have. It's all about creating leverage, so every single bit of your effort goes so much further than it ever could on its own. And to get there, we're going to follow a really clear, structured path. First, we'll talk about that feeling of overwhelm. Then, I'll introduce a simple framework to help cut through it. We'll figure out where AI actually fits into all this, talk about building your very first system, look at a few common traps to avoid, and finally land on structure as the true path forward. So first things first, it is completely 100% normal to feel overwhelmed right now. The pressure is just relentless to monetize your work, to innovate, to master some new AI tool every single week. It feels like a gold rush, and if you're not sprinting, you feel like you're being left behind. But you know what? That feeling, it's just a symptom. It's not the root problem. And this right here is the crucial point. That feeling of being totally overwhelmed, it's not some personal failure on your part. It's a structural problem. Think of it like trying to build a house without a blueprint. You could have the best power tools in the world, but without a plan, you're just making a bigger mess faster. And every new tool you add just adds to the chaos. So how do you fix a structural problem? Well, you introduce a better structure. What we really need is a simple framework, a lens that helps us filter out all the noise and focus only on what actually moves the needle without getting distracted by the next shiny object that comes along. And this just says it all, right? The real issue isn't a lack of tools, it's a lack of a system. So many of us get stuck in this tool-first mindset, thinking, oh, if I just learn this one new app, all my problems will be solved. But a tool without a system to plug it into, well, it's just another distraction. The goal isn't to collect more tools, it's to build one effective system. So our framework for building that system, it's built on 3 simple pillars. They're sequential, they're powerful, and they make a ton of sense. First comes clarity. Then you build an asset, and finally, you wrap it all up in a system. Let's break each one of these down. First up, clarity. This is the absolute foundation for everything else. Before you write a single line of code, before you write a single prompt for an AI, you have to know, what specific problem am I solving and who exactly am I solving it for? This isn't about tactics, it's about your purpose. And getting this right makes every other decision 100 times easier. So once you have that clarity, you can move on to the next pillar, creating an asset. Think of this like a piece of digital real estate. It could be a course, an ebook, maybe a template, a piece of software, really anything you can build once that continues to provide value over and over again without you having to manually recreate it every single time. And finally, we have the system. Now, if the asset is your valuable property, the system is the engine that makes it run. This is your automated email sequence, your content delivery pipeline, your customer onboarding flow. It's the set of processes that connects your audience to your asset and delivers that value at scale, freeing you up from all that constant hands-on effort. Okay, so with our framework in mind, clarity, asset, system, where does AI fit into all of this? It's really tempting to see it as some kind of magic bullet that can just do everything for you. But its true role, it's actually way more interesting and way more powerful than that. This is so important for separating the reality from the hype. What AI does brilliantly is amplify your capabilities. It can accelerate all those repetitive tasks. It can help you execute your vision faster, and it can act as a tireless assistant. But here's what it doesn't do. It doesn't provide the vision. It can't give you clarity on your purpose, and it can't define your strategy. That part, that still has to come from you. This is probably the most powerful mindset shift you can make right now. Don't think of AI as just another tool, like a hammer. Think of it as a digital teammate. It's a collaborator that you can delegate tasks to, brainstorm with, and rely on to handle the busy work. And that frees you up to focus on your most important, uniquely human and creative work. So now that we have our framework and a much more realistic view of AI, let's talk about taking that first step. The goal here is not to build some massive, fully autonomous business overnight. No way. The goal is to start incredibly small, build just a little bit of momentum, and then build on top of that.
This is your mantra for getting started. Automate, productize, multiply. Find something you already do over and over again. Use some tools to automate it, and then package that automated process into a product or a service. This is how you start to build real leverage.
So, what does that actually look like? Well, conceptually, it's simple. First, you just identified one single thing you do repeatedly. Maybe it's turning a blog post into a bunch of social media posts, or maybe it's answering the same 5 questions from new clients. Second, you use tools, AI or otherwise, to automate those steps. And third, you just think about how you could package that process up as an offer, either to save yourself time or to maybe even sell to others. Now, as you start down this path, it's just as important to know what not to do. There are a few very common traps that are so easy to fall into, and they can lead you right back to that same feeling of overwhelm we're trying so hard to get away from. Here are the big 3. First, there's tool hopping. That's constantly jumping from one new AI to the next without ever really finishing or implementing anything. Second is overbuilding, trying to create the perfect, all-encompassing system from day one instead of just starting with a tiny, manageable piece. And third, comparing timelines, looking at someone else's polished success story and feeling like you're way behind. Just remember, your path is your own. Focus on your structure, not their speed. And that brings us to our final and honestly most important idea. The way out of the overwhelm, the path to building something that actually lasts, it is all about structure. Your very next step isn't about moving faster. It's about choosing a clear direction and just taking one small, deliberate step. And ultimately, this is the prize. When you build and own your own systems, you're no longer just trading your time for money. You are building assets that work for you, even when you aren't. You're creating leverage. You start to own your time. And that right there, that's the true definition of creative and financial freedom. So I'll just leave you with this one simple question. Not a big, scary, overwhelming one, just this. What is the single, smallest, most repeatable process in your work that you could start to systematize this week? Start there. The clarity, it'll follow. Thanks for spending your time with me.